Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Daily Ramble here on Claret and Booze. My name's Gary, and today we're going to be talking about Manuel Lanzini and why he is unhappy about having really, a tiny amount of game time so far this year. And that's led to a response by David Moyes. And as part of that response, David Moyes has inadvertently, that's the only way I can understand it anyway, backed Flynn Downs, which is something we all want to see. And Flynn Downs himself has gone on to back the team spirit in the squad and how it's improved lately. Then we'll talk about Kurt Zouma, who's appeared with a contraption attached to his leg, raising fears that he's got perhaps a worse injury than at first thought. And we will discuss that twilight zone of injured West Ham players. They seem to go in there and never come out. What is it with our injuries? Why is it always us? Anyway, it's not always us. It's Spurs as well, and I'm going to touch on that towards the end. So please give this show a watch, and if you enjoy it, especially with my new background, I've gone for a summer background. I'll put the winter behind us. I've gone for a summer background, nice sunshine. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe to our channel, Claret and Booze, hit the bell notification icon, and give us a like. It all helps with the wonderful YouTube algorithm. So thank you very much. So, on with the first story. So Lanzini, Manuel Lanzini tweeted a baffled emoticon, if you know what one of those is. But anyway, it's short and sweet. It was a very short message, but that led to in an interview with David Moyes, a journalist asking him a question, saying, why is Lanzini getting no game time? And David Moyes turned around and said, well, to be quite honest, I'd love to give him more game time, but he is in the pecking order. He is behind Fornals, who we expected, Souček, who we expected, and Flynn Downs. He's behind Flynn Downs in the pecking order. And he also went on to say that he's been trying to give Flynn Downs more game time. And that's a really good sign, because I think most of us really rate Flynn Downs, and it seems that maybe Moyes does as well. I do feel for Lanzini, because I think he had something like 1,800 minutes of football last season, and this season so far he's under 200 minutes. It's a real tiny amount of game time. So I can understand him being upset. Any professional would. And I think this is probably coming towards the end of his career at West Ham. What a great career it's been. But I think you've got to. I make Moyes right in this instance. Downs must be the priority. We know that. Most of us are assuming that Downs will be the Rice replacement when Rice is shifted out in the summer. At least I hope he gets a chance to do that anyway. I think he's a quality player. He's done. Play him in goal, he'd do a job. The guy does a job everywhere, right? So that was surprising, but welcome from Moyes. It's the first time I think I've heard him speak publicly about actually rating Flynn Downs. Flynn Downs himself, don't know whether he's buoyed by the praise from his boss or whatever, but he's gone and spoken to the press and said, we're looking forward to Spurs. The team is in a much better state than it has been so far this season. You can see that the team are sticking together, they're fighting for each other, and that's always a good sign, right? That's good to hear, especially ahead of the Spurs game. Moving on to the Spurs game now, who's going to be injured, who's not, and this applies to both teams, thank God. So the first one is Kurt Zouma. So Kurt Zouma was pictured with a contraption on his leg, and people assumed it was a leg brace. In other words, he went off, when was it? A couple of weeks ago, he went off with what appeared to be a thigh strain, and now he's in a leg brace. So people started to think, is his knee knackered again or something? Well, apparently it's not his knee. It's a gadget that attaches to the leg, and apparently it does a sort of deep tissue massage or something like that. So that's all good. It's like a compression sock, an advanced compression sock you put on. So anyway, that's good. But having said that, there doesn't seem to be any firm update as to what the extent of the injury is. We were told originally it was a thigh strain. Now we're not being told what it is. And the same goes for all of the other players who, unfortunately, have suffered injuries at the moment, including Skamaka just disappeared for weeks without us really knowing what the problem was. And I don't really get why they keep these things a secret. I mean, what's the harm in saying when a player's due back? Otherwise, it's just frustrating. Paqueta, he's gone off, and after the game, we were hearing that it was his shoulder that had popped out. Yeah, I thought if his shoulder popped out, they popped it back in, and a few weeks later, you're playing again. Not like when he broke his collarbone before. But then the following day, after the Paqueta injury, we heard that it was a collarbone. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows what it is? He's entered the West Ham twilight zone, so we're never going to know what it is. Aguerd started out as a thigh strain. Nothing serious, just a few weeks. It's all gone quiet. It's all gone quiet. We have no clue when he's going to come back. Now, whether this is a game by David Moyes to just keep the opposition in the dark or whatever, if that's what it is, then I'm fine with it. But it's very unusual. It's very unusual. You usually have a clear view of when players are due back from injury, even if it's within a couple of games or something like that. But maybe Moyes wants the element of surprise, like Cato in Pink Panther. Max Cornet, he's got a virus. So if you're keeping tracks on the Max Cornet saga, he had a mystery injury. He went missing October the 1st, 137 days ago. He eventually, after lots and lots of treatments and everything else that didn't work, he went back to France, and after many sessions with some French specialist, they found that it was like a very rare injury. Still don't know what it is, but a very rare condition, and this French specialist fixed that condition. Then he was heading back to the UK and starting training. Then there was a recurrence of said injury, so it hadn't been fixed properly, so he went back to see the specialist. Now he's in France seeing the specialist. He's suddenly got a virus. This is a very unlucky player, isn't it? It's a very unlucky player. But anyway, look, that's the extent of our injuries. I don't think we're going to see any of these players featuring at the weekend. Maybe Scamacca. Maybe we'll see a late appearance from Scamacca. Who knows? Because he appears to be the one who's closest to a return, right? Now, another one, talking about Spurs. Spurs played Milan. They lost. Yay. They lost last night, 1-0. And Basuma was injured, and apparently he's going to be out for a lot of the season. This is in addition to Lloris, who's out for 6 weeks, Sessegnon, who's out for a few weeks, and also Rodrigo Bentancur, who is out for the whole season. Now, this is a key player for them. He's made 25 appearances in all competitions this year, including Champions League, and scored 6 goals. He's a big contributor, Uruguayan midfielder. So, I'm so ignorant. I'd barely heard of him, but he's a key player for them. So there you go. Anyway, it's good that we're not the only team who are impacted by injuries. Anything that can handicap Spurs going into that game is good by me. Now, there's one last topic that I wanted to discuss, and this is around Mark Noble. So Mark Noble is currently in France, apparently, looking at a player called Axel Disasi of Monaco. He's over there to see Monaco against PSG, in which this player is going to feature. Apparently, he is one for the summer transfer market. So when that window opens again, we can we potentially will have some targets all lined up. But interesting to hear, following the departure of a big chunk of our youth system for the last few years, and I'm talking, as you know, people like Alacy, Longello, Ekwa, Ashby, Perkins, others, right? Lots and lots of them. Been a big clear out of our under 23s, and a lot of people, especially me, I think, by the way, the one I'll pick out of all them is Ashby. I think he's going to turn out to be a proper player. But anyway, look, it doesn't derail the story. The story is that Mark Noble has been putting his boots on and going and training with the under-18s. The under-18s, by the way, are killing everything in front of them. They are leading their division by 15 points or so. They're in a cup final. They're doing so well. This is a team of real high-flying kids. And Mark Noble has been putting on his boots and training with them. He knows these kids. And apparently what he wants to do is to clear the way through to the first team for some of these young kids, for some of these under-18s. And obviously, especially with Moyes' squad seniority system, if you've got a bunch of under-23s in the way, then those under-18s are never going to get a look in, are they? Hopefully it won't be Moyes anyway. But I can see the logic in that. And if you've got to trust the people who've been working with these kids, if they think they're never going to make it as usable resources for West Ham, and by that I mean, you know, someone that's going to feature quite regularly, like a Ben Johnson, for instance. You know, it doesn't have to be a Declan Rice, but somebody like a Ben Johnson who is a very useful asset to our squad. If they're looking at these players and saying they're never going to even feature in that role, then I think letting them go is the right thing to do. Let them go. Let them have a decent career at whatever level they're gonna reach. But this approach to me makes absolutely perfect sense. So if that is the case, yeah, I'd like to give Mark Noble some much needed credit for having a little bit of vision in how this can work, because I can see that is definitely a problem that's being solved there. It does rely a lot on the under 18s making the grade, but again, I'm sure Mark Noble knows a player when he sees one. Anyway, that is it from me. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, hit the bell notification icon, and subscribe to our channel Claret and Booze on YouTube. Yesterday you had the handsome Virgil. Today you've got the old me, and then tomorrow you've got Angry Nick doing Daily Ramble. So that's the three of us, and so that's me done. Until next time, see you soon, and come on, you irons.